Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're out here on the range to do some gauntlet testing, this time with the Sig MPX. This is a second gen or later gun. It's a recent manufacturer. We want to thank our friends over at Big Daddy Unlimited for supplying the gun to the channel so we can conduct tests like this. But this little 9mm PCC has become quite popular. And we thought, well, we got to do this. We've got to subject the MPX to all this, so here we go. And if you don't know what the gauntlet test is, it's two tests really. So the first test is what we call the elements test. We'll put the gun in the water, fire it, then we'll put it in the sand, fire it, clean it in the water, get the sand off, put it in the dirt, fire it, clean it in the water, get the dirt off, put it in the mud, and fire it. That's the elements test. If it passes that test without a whole bunch of malfunctions, we'll then move into what we call the gauntlet. And that's just going from water to sand, dirt to mud with no rinse cycle in between. So with guns like the MPX that have port covers or selector levers, like on the AKV9, that open up the action or close the action, the first time we run the gun, we're going to run it through the test with its protective measures in place. In this case, the port cover closed. So what we're simulating is that the weapon's ready for use. It's going to have a round in the chamber, mag inserted, port cover closed, and then we're going to subject it to whatever element, or basically like if you drop the gun on the ground, pick it up and fire it. Now, if the gun does extremely well through both the elements and the gauntlet test with the port cover closed, we'll go ahead and subject it to one more test, the gauntlet test with the port cover open, just to see how much of a difference it made. But by that time, of course, the gun's already going to be dirty. But again, these tests aren't scientific, guys. These are mostly for entertainment. There's certainly information in these videos that can be useful, but just keep in mind the context of these types of videos. They're not scientific. Okay, so with all that being said, let's go ahead and start this test. Now, how we start them off is we do a function check. We will be using some Federal 124 grain ammunition. We'd like to thank our friends over at Federal for supplying the ammunition to the channel free of charge. And we just do a quick function check here. Confirm function, gun is working just fine, and now the fun begins. So let's go ahead, put the magazine in, try to keep it in, charge the weapon, close the port cover, put it on safe, and we'll wait until there's no more bubbles. This is a gas piston design, guys. Okay, dead trigger, fired one shot. Did not eject the case. Wow, that's interesting. So the guns will not fire immediately after coming out of the water. Did not expect that. Now we're going to put it in the sand, and we just lay it down, simulating a drop on both sides. Alrighty. Oh yeah. Always forget. T-handle. Always forget that's back there. I want to reach up for a forward charging handle. Alright. Put it in the dirt. Push her down. Alright. We expect the guns to pass this test with relative ease. And here's the mud test. All right. Lay her in there and push her down. And then the other side. And here we go. Okay. So what we're going to do now is let the gun rinse off in its own dirty water. We'll reset the test. We'll put it through the gauntlet. We'd like to thank our friends over at Big Daddy Unlimited for helping to support this video and other videos that we produce. Guys, if you would like to support us here at the Military Arms channel, please swing by and check out Big Daddy Unlimited. You can do that by going by militaryarms.org, checking out that big yellow link at the very top of the page, clicking it, and becoming a member for just 99 cents. If you would like to stay a member going forward, you can do so for 20% off using that link, which is just $7.99 a month. And what is BDU? Well, basically think of it as the Sam's Club of the online world. So again, please swing by and check out Big Daddy Unlimited. All right, guys, let's do the gauntlet test. I don't know if I mentioned this in the first segment, but we have 15 rounds loaded into each magazine. All right, so the first time we ran this test, we noticed an interesting behavior. Let's see if it's repeated. The gun did not fire when it was immediately brought up out of the water. This gun is piston driven. So with that water in the barrel, that water has to work its way through the gas port, and the gun has to cycle with that water in the system when it's immediately brought up out of the water. So it's kind of interesting to see how this gun performs. Now let's go ahead. We've loaded the weapon, put it on safe, port cover is closed, and let's see if she does it again. Exact same thing. Dead trigger, bolt didn't cycle. All right, and she should run fine now. Famous last words, stovepipe. Live round just went out, so we just lost one of our rounds. That time it took 2 rounds to clear the gun. Interesting, doesn't like being submerged in water. Some guns are like that. Go ahead and charge her up. And now, put her down. We did close the port cover. We're gonna throw sand up on the gun. I'm gonna flip her over. Do the same thing to the other side. And here we go. We're trying to do some malfunction at this point. All right. All the controls are still working. Doesn't feel like the action's getting very gummed up at all with that port cover closed. And now the mud. Oh. Let's get some of that exterior mud off here, just so I get less of it on me. Here we go. All right. Interesting failures with the gun. Very interesting failures indeed. So it seems like all the failures were centered around the water. And so we had 1 malfunction in the elements test, 2 in the gauntlet test, all 3 in the water. All right, let's clean her up. We said that we'd run it again. We washed it off in its own dirty water. We'll run through this gauntlet again after we reset the test and load the magazines. And this time we're gonna do it with the port cover open. See how that changes the dynamic. All right, guys, see you in a second. All right, guys, so here we go. We're going to run through the gauntlet test one more time. We've cleaned it off in the water, and we're going to see how well it does this time with the port cover open. So it's a pretty sealed up system when you close that port cover, and the action doesn't feel very gritty at all because I don't think a whole lot of stuff's gotten into the gun, obviously. So let's go ahead, and we've reset the test. Let's load her up. And also we're going to see one more time, leave that open. We're going to see one more time if this hydrolocking takes place when the gun comes right out of the water. Yep, it's an empty recoil impulse. You can tell the bolt didn't even open. Again, empty recoil impulse, second round. All right, again, 2 rounds to clear the water out of the action of the gun. All right, put her in the dirt. That bolt, when it closes, looks like it seals up the action again, though. Perfect ejection, guys. This thing is running like a sewing machine, except for the water. When that bolt closes, still very tight tolerances. It's almost as if it's a port cover. All right, put her in the mud. It's amazing how much weight that mud adds to the gun. All right. Here we go. All right, guys. We'll give you some final thoughts here in a second. Let's clean the gun up, and there's no reason to hose it off to see if it's going to work. We're going to hose it off, but the gun just works. The only thing it doesn't like is the water. We'll be right back. Well, guys, it's a pretty interesting testing result. The gun choked in the water. And in the elements test and the first gauntlet test, which are what we count, there was a total of 3 failures. If you throw in the failures of the second test, just to see how it performed with the dust cover open, we had a total of 5 failures. And they were all in the water. And it was all after we brought the gun up out of the water. The gun does not like being submerged. And perhaps that's why it's not seen any military contracts. As far as a civilian firearm, I don't see that as being a very big deal. I don't know where you would find yourself in a submerged situation where you'd immediately have to bring your weapon up and use it. It's not to say those situations couldn't arise in a civilian setting, but it's not something that I think is detrimental to the design for a home defense weapon or something like that. Now, when we got into the other elements, the gun really shined. It was really shocking how poorly it did in the water, though. So no over the beach for this gun. I'll let you guys be the judge, how you would rate the gun's performance based on what we've shown you here this afternoon. Now, we have cleaned the gun up. It's been out of the water for a little while. What I'm going to do is load it up with another 15 rounds. And it was working just fine with the mud on it. But we're going to confirm that. We're going to see if just having the garden hose spray it down, which is what we cleaned it off with. And we didn't open the action. We didn't feel we needed to. I just hosed it off from the outside. But there's water, a little bit of water droplets in the barrel. Let's go ahead and see. Interesting. Use the T-handle. Let's see if that's going to cause a failure, even though it's been out of the water for a while now. Look at that, guys. So this does change the dynamic quite a bit. So now it's failing, having been out of the water for several minutes, being on its side, being held nose down while I'm talking to you, and probably 5 minutes before we recorded this segment. We were loading the mag and talking about its performance. All the while it was just sprayed off with a garden hose laying here. It wasn't in the water. That's interesting. That's a bigger problem. That means you can't get the gun wet at all. That's weird. That is really weird. So, if you submerge the gun at all and until the water completely dries in the barrel, it looks like it may cause malfunctions. Like I said, that is a much bigger problem than we initially thought. That was from us just spraying it off with the garden hose. And again, being out of the water for a considerable amount of time. So would rainwater in the barrel cause the gun not to work? Possibly at this point. Possibly. All right, I'll let you guys be the judge. Again, we'd like to thank our friends over at Big Daddy Unlimited for supplying the MPX for our testing. Guys, if you'd like to see videos like this, please consider supporting us over on Patreon. There's a link in the video description below. Click that link and consider becoming part of our Patreon family. Also, right here on YouTube, there's a little join button underneath the video player you're looking at right now. Just give that join button a click and support us right here on YouTube. And last but not least, please swing by and check out coppercustom.com. Guys, thank you for 12 years of support. We'll talk to you soon. Due to our late discovery of this gun's water sensitivity, when we were cleaning up, we thought, what the heck, let's try a couple of tests just to see how much water it requires to cause the MPX to fail. So what we're going to do first is fire off 15 rounds just to make sure there's no water in the system, blow out that water that may be in there. Now what I'm going to do, guys, this is going to be dangerous on the second test. So don't do this at home. What I'm going to do is put the magazine in the gun, take a tablespoon of water, and pour it in the barrel, close, so just a tablespoon of water did not cause the gun to malfunction. Pouring it in the ejection port. This is very dangerous now. I'm going to put my hand in front of the muzzle. Don't do this at home. I'm going to try to get a tablespoon of water straight down into the muzzle. And there's our malfunction. So it is the gas piston system that is it's sensitive to water, just as we thought. It's not water in the action of the gun. It is the gas piston failing. Again, click no bang. So, with this weapon loaded, muzzle up in the rain, the gun will not function if it gets enough water in the barrel. A tablespoon of water caused it to malfunction. Thought that to be even more interesting.